the Italian Football Podcast.
Mike Gurieri asks, my question this week is simply, do you guys think the Supercoppa result could be enough to derail Inter season mentally? I have a bad feeling it will. Also, in what universe are Inter not accepting a transfer for Asllani in January? The second part, Asllani, I don't think they want to sell him in January because they don't feel that Marotta doesn't like doing business like that in January. He wants to wait for the summer and then build properly.
That's get just fair value as well.
Yeah, exactly. And he doesn't like, for him, January is just, if there's an opportunity that's worth it to build for the future, etc., etc. He doesn't really like doing things in January, unless it is to like secure players for June or whatever. I think that's a really interesting question about derailing into season mentally, because okay, they do have a favorable run. They got Venezia, Bologna, Empoli, Sparta Prague, Lecce. These are all winnable games. These are not just winnable games, these are all must-win games. So there is pressure there. But I think it depends on how Inter approach this. Do they approach this with seriousness and anger, in the sense that, again, in a big game, Inter gets suckered into the opposition's rhythm and lose all of their own shape and structure and game plan and concede goals and drop points and wins that way? And if they can finally address that, which they kind of thought they had after the Juve game, that's fine. But I do think there is a reason to be worried, Mike. Yes, I'm the same.
I don't think it will have any impact on their next run of games. In fact, after they lost to Milan last time, they went on an incredible run.
Yeah, but they didn't play well enough.
Because the only thing that I think is to watch out for is something that we've spoken about, or I've spoken about. I've been very critical of Inzaghi on the Atletico Madrid game, how he went way too defensive, way too early, trying to hold on to what he's got. Then they ended up going out, and then we've seen examples of that with the Arsenal game, way too early, just defending the entirety of the second half. We saw it also in the Leverkusen game. They just defended for pretty much the whole game, like that kind of sort of like tendency to just defend. That wasn't the case in this game. In fact, they were 2-0 up, and they were probably too naive the other way. They were still they were too open, and they were still trying to attack and left it open for like the likes of Leao to be so devastating in the space.
Exactly.
So it was kind of weird. Like then now he's like, when it comes to these big games later in the season, that's where I think derail's the wrong word, but that's where Inzaghi is going to be in a little bit of a rock and hard place. And I think what was inevitable, what's going to happen is, if we're in the same position like this, where they're ahead in a big game against a big team with dangerous players, they're going to revert to type. They're going to go back to like what they were in Atletico Madrid, and he needs to get it right and not to overdo it. And that's where usually you go back to type. So that's where it could impact, I think, from that way later on in the season, in a big game in the Champions League, 1-0 up with into the second half.
What I want Inter to do is to control games. Like when they go a goal up or 2 goals up, I want them to control games. I want someone to be able to calm down, maybe disrupt the tempo, to bring the tempo down, to give them a chance to... I don't like when Inter gets suckered into the rhythm of the opposition, because they lose all concentration, all shape, everything. Exactly like you said against the Milan, Milan game, like I said in my post-match reaction, this keeps happening, and I don't like that. I don't feel Inter this season have been able to control games like they did last season. I think last season they actually did control games really well. The problem against Atletico Madrid was they didn't kill off the game in the first leg. They went in the lead in the second leg, but conceded immediately afterwards. That was a kind of mental fragility that I don't like. I think all of this comes down to some sort of mental fragility still. Last season, it was a one-off against Atletico Madrid, because overall in the Serie A, they were completely in control and commanding. That's my concern. That this season, Inter aren't doing that. They just aren't doing that. And they haven't done it, even if the results have been looking good. And that is, of course, that's the reason why I'm concerned. But we'll see. That Milan derby in a couple of weeks is going to be very, very interesting.